Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones. This evening's topic: pedophilia is classified as a psychosexual issue. Now, pedophilia, also called a pedophilic disorder, is basically a psychosexual disorder in which an adult has sexual fantasies or engages in sexual acts with a child who is pre-puberty or post-puberty. Sex makes no difference. It could be the opposite sex or the same sex. Now, in the fifth edition of the DSM, and if you're not familiar with what the DSM is, it's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Orders, fifth edition. This one came out in 2013. It describes pedophilia or a pedophilic disorder as a classification of paraphilia. It's a category of recognized disorders defined by unusual fantasies, urges, and behaviors that are recurring and sexually arousing. According to the fifth edition of the DSM, in order to be classified as a pedophile, you must be diagnosed clinically with having thoughts and behaviors that cause distress or interpersonal hardships to the affected individual, or they cause distress, injury, or death to persons who are unwilling and unable to consent to sexual behaviors. Now, the World Health Organization's ICD-10, which is their version of the DSM-5, theirs is known as the Classification of Mental and Behavioral Disorders 1993, basically uses a similar definition. Now, according to both publications, the offending thoughts and behaviors must be present for at least 6 months for a clinical diagnosis, and the affected individual must be 16 years of age and at least 5 years older than the child or children at the center of the individual's sexual fantasies. Now, pedophilia may be distinguished from hebephilia, which that means a sexual preference for individuals who are typically between the ages of 11 and 14. And you have ephebophilia, which is a sexual preference for late-stage adolescents. Typically, the ages range around 15 and 16. Now, in many countries, an individual who's convicted in a court of law for child sexual abuse, which involves sexual abuse or sex acts of a child who is what we call pre-puberty or post-puberty, and that is an individual up to the age of 18, is known as a sex offender. And some of those individuals are also later clinically diagnosed with pedophilia. Now, the typical pedophile is unable to find satisfaction in an adult relationship and may have low self-esteem, so sexual attraction toward children dominates the pedophile's life, often causing the individual to live in fear of the attraction and in some cases causing a person to act on his or her own urges. Now, if a pedophile is driven to a sexual encounter, the encounter frequently stops short of intercourse, with the pedophile obtaining satisfaction or sexual gratification through fondling the child and sometimes through genital display alone. Now, reactions of the child victim can range from fright, particularly if force or violence is involved, to bewilderment or passive enjoyment. Although some children may seem upset by previous parental warnings than by an actual encounter, the sexual encounter can often be quite traumatic to the child, especially if the act is associated with violence. Now, there is also evidence that children who have been sexually victimized, and I've said this time and time again in previous videos, are more likely to be troubled adults and become pedophiles and sexual abusers themselves. Now, the underlying cause of pedophilia is basically unclear. Now, although there are biological abnormalities, such as hormone imbalance, that may contribute to the disorder in some individuals, biological factors have not been proven as causes as of yet. Now, in many cases, pedophilic behavior appears to be associated with sexual abuse or neglect that was experienced by a child during his or her childhood years and with atypical emotional or psychological development. Now, research also has indicated that boys who were sexually abused are more likely to become pedophiles or sex offenders. Now, as far as girls, if they've been sexually abused more frequently, they respond by engaging in self-destructive behaviors such as substance abuse or prostitution. Now, most pedophiles, and this is true, are men. The condition is rare in women. Now, when a person with pedophilia acts on his or her own urges and causes a child to suffer, it is generally considered a serious sexual offense. Patients who are diagnosed with this disorder are expected to participate in treatment programs. Among effective forms of treatment for pedophilia are cognitive and behavioral therapies that employ empathy training and restructuring of distorted and deviant thought patterns. Empathy training reaches the patient to view his or her own behavior from the perspective of the victim. Now, cognitive distortion therapy attempts to restructure a patient's deviant notions. For example, by reinforcing the fact that coercion of children into sexual activities is an inappropriate behavior. In some cases, medications such as cryptoterone or cyproterone that suppresses the activity of testosterone in men can be effective in reducing aggressive behavior and sex drive. Now, again, when it comes to pedophilia, it's a serious offense. These issues, like pedophilia, we've known that they've existed, but why don't we talk about them? Well, we don't talk about these issues because we deny that these issues ever happened. We think because we hear it on the news or somebody else reporting it, that it won't happen to us. Now, that can be your own perception, but all perceptions aren't reality. Anybody can become a pedophile. And you have to look at how pedophilia came about. And I always go back to the infrastructure, the family. There's always somebody in there, such as a dad, and even outside the family, somebody to whom you trust. And that's the bottom line. It's not necessarily a stranger who's causing these acts of pedophilia. It's somebody you trust and you believe in. Like if you go to church, in the religion of Catholicism, you have a number of priests who have committed pedophilia. You've had preachers, you've had instructors, coaches, teachers. Heck, you have uncles, cousins, brothers, and dads. All these people are part of a community that you as a child trusted, but you didn't know that they had it in them to become pedophiles. But if you go back in history, what they never told you is they may have been molested. And if you look at the inmate population, men and women, 14.4% of men who are in prison were molested as children. 36.7% of women who are in prison were molested as children. That's a total of 51.1%. So you see where I'm going with this issue? How we need to take it a little more seriously? Because an issue that involves children destroys a child's psyche, and it could be forever. Because these children are going to grow up and they're going to be dysfunctional people themselves, and it could lead to depression, anxiety, and suicide. This is why a number of individuals who have been molested or they've been pedophiles aren't good mates, because they weren't taught. And they repeat the same type of behavior that happened to them. So at the end of the day, it is our job as society to reinforce that pedophilia is a serious and not only dangerous crime, but it's a crime that will teach children how not to be model citizens. Why? Because these children, they know no better, and they're going to imitate that behavior. And at the end of the day, parents, you must watch who you keep your children with. In fact, you must watch your own family members, because this is where it all starts. And that's why I'm doing videos like this, because everybody in your family that you love and trust is not good. But also everybody around you to whom you trust, like a preacher, your teacher, your instructor, is not good. In fact, they have skeletons in their closets. So here's my advice to all you parents. Don't be trusting of anybody when it comes to your children. Because once you become naive, you're going to give the perpetrators, who are sex offenders or pedophiles, a chance to make your child another victim. And at the end of the day, when that happens, your child's psyche can be ruined forever. And that's my edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show for this evening, Wednesday, Hump Day, July 12th, 2017. You can tune in to the 411 Talk Zone radio show every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio. Guest calling number is 215-383-5785. If you like my videos, please share and subscribe to the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube, so I can continue to give you quality information for educational purposes from a professional and mature perspective. Now, on this channel, I do not engage in debating, controversy, or emotional issues, nor do I participate in drama or unnecessary bickering. Why do I not participate in drama or unnecessary bickering? Because it's counterproductive. What I'm here to do is educate my audience and individuals who are not my audience members, because if you're not educated about what's going on in the real world, you're going to be naive and you're going to struggle. And what I'm doing here is keeping everything realistic but positive. I'm giving you the tools that you can apply to make yourself a model citizen in the real world. Why? Because you need this information. Because on my channel, I'm going to talk about topics that you don't hear any other channel talk about, particularly in the black community. And mental, psychological, and health issues are not talked about too much when it comes to the black community. But I'm here to do it. Although I'm not a psychotherapist, a doctor, I don't have to be. But I enjoy studying these issues because I learn a lot about not just myself, but behaviors of other people. Because again, when it comes to pedophilia, anybody could be a pedophile. But the bottom line, you got to notice their behavior. And this video will point out the different aspects of what pedophilia is and what it can do. And that being said, if you understand that, then you're going to understand that knowledge is power. And if you have a business, a topic, or a new YouTube channel that you would like for me to discuss on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, please email me at lej6521@gmail.com. And if you have a comment, please leave your comment in the comment section under the video. But make sure that your comments are pithy, no bloviating, pettifogging, or filibustering, if you wish to opine. Now that's it for this video. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Remember, Please be gentle and respectful to each other, and have a wonderful and blessed evening. Good night.